Alright, honestly, I'm just done with this. Treyarch, this has got to go. Honestly, who would have ever guessed what seemed to be one of Black Ops 6 Zombies' coolest features before launch would be the single-handed worst issue plaguing the entire game? As time has gone on, it's become clear that the Mutant Injection score streak is one of, if not the most broken mechanic to appear in any iteration of COD Zombies ever. And I truly believe this is so much more of an issue than you probably even realize. And so that's why today, I want to discuss the many awful side effects having the mutant injections in this game actually causes, as well as what the actual issues even are with the injector itself, and finally how we can actually fix this moving forward. So first up, let's start off with those many negative side effects that the mutant injection currently causes. This trivializes any in-game challenges. Any side Easter egg step? Yep, just use the injector. Any main Easter egg step? Yep, injector. Any boss fight that requires even the slightest amount of skill? Yep, you just have your whole team bring injectors and just complete it first try, easy. Oh, a boss zombie comes in and actually requires you to get out of the corner you've been sitting in for like 2 seconds. Yep, he's gone. Going for a high round? Yep, just pop it and sit in the corner, spam the melee button, and literally go the entire round just in the mangler injection. And next up here is that the game is entirely balanced around these. So therefore, the argument, just don't use them, just doesn't work. As to combat this, zombies do a metric shit ton of damage on those high rounds due to the zombie damage scaling. They're super sprinters 90% of the time you're playing. And there is an unbelievable amount of boss zombies to give even the slightest chance you might go down for the 2 seconds you're out of an injector. But also, because of that, all these said boss zombies will drop you even more injectors, to the point where you literally will have one on the ground at all times. So them trying to combat this issue just makes it even worse. And all of this kind of combines together to make playing without an injector a far more annoying experience. And this also means that the go-to most viable, efficient, and safest strategy for high rounds on every single map is the exact same. You just sit by a crafting table, use a mutant injector over and over and over again on every single map. This honestly just makes the maps far less unique and way more boring than they actually are. And next is that they kind of soil any records and achievements. Speedruns, high rounds, any challenge in this game that allows score streaks are just incredibly inflated. The average person could easily just use the mangler injection strat and get to round 100 on every single map. You can just breeze right through otherwise challenging boss fights and other Easter egg steps during a speedrun, and what used to be quote-unquote challenges like staying in the spawn room, you can now do with ease, as any boss zombie can just be pummeled to death with 2,500 salvage. Or to be honest, you probably didn't even craft it and just got off a special zombie first. And lastly here is that it makes other cool mechanics pretty much useless. You know, like using bullet guns with AATs on those higher rounds. After unlocking the ability to craft injections, most AATs become pretty much useless. And because it's so powerful, it's actually better than some wonder weapons like the ray gun, which if you look at it, it actually takes time to acquire in the first place and fully upgrade, needing 50,000 points to get it to its full potential. And it is something that does do decent damage, but you still have to be on your toes, as you'll be vulnerable to damage the entire time while using it. But again, why would you ever do that when you can kill even faster and never die? And lastly here, you've got all this other equipment that you could potentially use, but end up never interacting with in the sandbox due to the fact that the injectors are so overpowered. You know, stuff like PhD Flopper, I pretty much never use this because why would I flop into a horde of zombies and leave myself vulnerable? You've got stuff like the Energy Mine, you've got Tomahawks, which are always a one-hit kill, and stuff like the Casimir's. Why would you buy 2 Casimir's for 3,000 salvage when you can instead get 1 injection for 2,500, which is less? Where unlike the Casimir's, you're literally invincible and can wipe out any boss zombies that appear, as well as the entire rest of that round. So yeah, anyone who's actually experienced this in-game for an extended period of time can tell you the exact same thing. These things are clearly busted with how they currently work. And with that said, there's actually been a lot of discourse on if score streaks should be removed from Black Ops 6 Zombies. But personally, I don't think that needs to be the case, because honestly, score streaks have been a part of zombies for over 10 years. So before diving into what's actually wrong with the mutant injection itself, I think it's important that we first talk about how these actually worked just fine in the past. So here, I want to highlight the one that operates most similarly to the ones we have in modern zombies: the death machine. And the reason I say it's similar is because it's a limited use quote-unquote score streak that randomly drops off zombies, giving you a huge power boost. And so the original iteration of this was from Black Ops 1, and the way you acquired it was mainly just from killing zombies. But there also was usually one guaranteed way to get it, and that was from a long extended quest. Like on Ascension, you had to do the entire Easter egg. On Call of the Dead, you had to kill George Romero, which took forever. And then on Moon, you had to do half of the entire Easter egg. And functionality-wise, it was just infinite ammo, but it only lasts 30 seconds. And it did solid, but not infinite damage, meaning it kind of fell off on those higher rounds. And of course, you are completely vulnerable to all damage while using it. And then in Black Ops 3, we kind of saw a little bit of a tweak to how the death machine works, which I actually prefer and think is better than it was in Black Ops 1. And so this is acquired in mostly the same way, with you just kind of getting it off of random zombie drops, but you can also guarantee it by using a one-time use gobblegum, and it is rewarded slightly more often with a small chance to drop from boss zombies, as well as sometimes like a side Easter egg reward. I mean, functionality-wise, it's mostly the same as the prior iterations in like Black Ops 1, except with the changes that the damage now scales with the rounds, making it not OP, but still extremely useful on those higher rounds. But the biggest change here is now you can actually hit Y and swap weapons, giving you access back to your main arsenal, but at the cost of losing the rest of the time on the death machine. You know, in the past, these quote-unquote score streaks were extremely rare, and were only obtained pretty much every once in a while, or through long kind of extended quests, as well as limited use items and a rare side Easter egg drop. And of course, once you acquire it, it only lasts 30 seconds, giving you that high damage boost, but at the cost of not being able to access anything else that you have, and you're still fully vulnerable to all damage during the entire duration. So with that all said, let's hop into the many problems with how the mutant injection actually works in Black Ops 6 Zombies. There's actually 3 big core issues here that kind of stood out to me. First up is the ease of access. It's incredibly easy to obtain this at pretty much any point in the game, making the most OP thing in the entire game an almost constant free reward. And if it's not showing up for you, guaranteeing yourself one is almost just as easy. You can get it from trial loot, you can get it from the mystery box, you can actually get it from redeeming keys on the 2 launch maps, you can get it through various side Easter eggs, and most importantly, you get it as an incredibly frequent drop from any special zombie, to the point where you're likely to get multiple per round. And of course, these can infinitely be crafted for just 2,500 salvage. The next big point here is the time frame. The injector's insane damage and invincibility last for an incredibly long amount of time, allowing you enough time to kill any challenging enemy in the game, as well as usually enough time left over to pass through the entire full round of zombies. The mutant injection actually lasts 45 whole seconds, with no way to actually have this timer depleted. You're just invincibly doing unlimited damage for 45 seconds straight. And that leads perfectly right into our last big problem, invincibility. Here, there is zero risk, it's just reward. From the literal second you hit that D-pad button, you are completely invincible from the second you get into it to the second it goes away. And this makes something like the limited 3 self-revives change that they did in this game pretty much completely worthless, as this acts as an infinite get-out-of-jail-free card. You get stuck in a corner, easily just hit one button and boom, yo, okay, you're good. And by the way, that's on top of things like having gobblegums as well as 2 ether shrouds. It almost completely removes the skill gap in zombies, making round 100 something pretty much everyone can do as long as they just do this one strat on every single map. And you know, in zombies, there has always been a downside to having something so powerful. The Thunder Gun, amazing damage but super limited ammo. You know, the Gersh device, infinite damage and it'll pull all the zombies in, yet you're completely vulnerable while you're pulling it out, and you can only hold up to 3 until you get the next max ammo. Even something like insta-kill, you've got 30 seconds of unlimited damage, but you don't want to be too careless because you can still die. And even like the ray gun and Mustang and Sally's, yeah, they do good damage, but if you're not careful and you're not thinking about it, you might actually down yourself with them. And so now that we've gone over what's actually wrong with the injection itself, instead of just leaving it there, let's actually try to fix this thing. Now there are so many different ways to alleviate these issues. And so here's a list of everything I could think of that they might actually do. So first up, ease of access. You could remove legendary streaks from being able to drop from special zombies. You can remove it from the box or trials, which I personally don't think is the best solution, but I mean, it's just an option. You could remove it as an option to craft it at the crafting table, or you could actually heavily increase the price it costs to craft to something like 10,000 to better reflect the power you actually get from it. Just like the self-revives, you could actually limit the amount you can craft per match to, I don't know, something like 3. Or you could actually increase the amount it costs to craft every single time you craft it. So your first time it might be 2,500, then 5,000, then 7,500, then 10,000. And our next big issue was the time frame. Overall here, I think a great solution to this would be to just at least cut it down to 30 seconds instead of 45, or preferably even 15. Like, you're literally invincible and can still damage enemies the entire time. Like, honestly, if it just stayed as it was and was only like a 15-second power boost, it would 100% help fix that issue of just negating any powerful boss enemy or challenge in the game, as well as fixing the fact that you could actually use it to progress through an entire round of zombies. But that's not the only thing we could do. You could actually make it so that if the zombies hit you during the mangler injection, it could take your overall time down by 1 second per hit, or maybe something like 5 seconds per elite or special zombie hit. This would actually introduce some sort of risk and reward while using it, increasing the skill gap, rewarding higher skill players. So instead of sitting in a corner and just spamming the buttons, you'd actually be moving around the arena trying to run away from the zombies while using it. Personally, I think that'd actually be pretty fun. And lastly here, they could make it so that the vial when you pick it up is only 1/4 full, to where maybe it only initially lasts about 10 seconds, but for each one you pick up after, the vial slowly fills even more, giving you 10 more seconds per injection you pick up, with a total of up to 4. This would add this kind of mechanic mechanic where you might not want to activate it yet, so that you could then save it for later on to where maybe you do want to use it to clear a hard step or like a boss fight. And lastly here, the issue of invincibility. Alright, first up here, it's something I've talked about over and over again. You do not need invincibility frames while you're pulling it out. You could legit just keep it how it is right now, and you could just remove the fact that you're invincible as soon as you hit the button, and then now people are actually gonna have to think before using it. And then boom, your infinite get out of jail free card is fixed too. And you know what, while they're at it, just make it so that it works like how the death machine used to work in Black Ops 3. By adding the ability to hit Y during that pullout animation to cancel it if it was actually a bad idea instead of just being stuck. And I know some people are still gonna go, oh, but what if I die when using it? Okay, even with the ability to cancel it, if you wanna make sure you don't die while using it, why not just throw a decoy, or a monkey bomb, or a 𝘾𝙤𝙢𝙢𝙮 grenade, or use your ether shroud, or turn a zombie, or literally any of the crap ton of options you have at your disposal. If you were to go down while using this, honestly, it's just your fault. I really hate to say it, but it's a skill issue. There's so many ways to get around that. And next here, if we didn't go with that original idea of zombie hits decreasing your total amount of time, we could actually instead make it that the mutant injection is literally your actual health bar but doubled. So then it would actually just be a huge health and power boost while not making you literally invincible. And if you think that would be annoying, literally just look at your health, and if it gets too low, you can just hold B and then boom, just escape the mangler injection and you're fine. And then finally here, what they can do to make it so that it's not a permanent failsafe is to actually have it fade away and disappear after a couple rounds. Let's say maybe you can only hold it for 3 total rounds, where it'll then start to blink just like kind of how the power-ups do. So then if the mutant injection is something you want to have as a fail-safe option, you're going to have to constantly keep getting new ones. And so now that we've finally gone over all the problems as well as their potential solutions, I'm sure some of you will still comment, but they can't change it because then the high rounds will be unplayable. Now guys, I need you to think about something. Nerfing mutant injections does not mean that they're not able to touch the enemy spam on higher rounds. Just like what they did with the Shadow Rift nerf. Yeah, it made higher rounds more annoying, but in that same patch, they also buffed the crap out of all the swords. This isn't just a possibility, it's almost a guarantee to happen, as that's just how they've been balancing Black Ops 6 Zombies so far. If you nerf something, you buff something else. And just a reality check for you if you still think high rounds would be unplayable without them, even still. I mean, guys, we have so many traps, OP equipment, including all the other score streaks which are still super good, as well as a solid map-specific wonder weapon on every single map. And lastly, to add on to this point, we literally had Cold War Zombies, which did not have insane enemy spam or mutant injectors. And to have those boss and special zombies on higher rounds bounced more like that, alongside the addition of the other more challenging elements we've already got here in Black Ops 6, this game would honestly just play so much better than it currently does. And well, that's about it from me. So I'm curious, without removing them, which of these potential solutions would actually be the best course of action? And also, do you have any ideas of your own? Let me know down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe? Or you can check out my other videos on screen now for my full review of the Tomb and the other for the current problems we have with the Black Ops 6 Zombies DLC.